Hello, hello.
Hi.
How are you again?
Yep, we're good. I was just telling you we're on baby watch. I have a nephew coming any day now, so I have to be like ready to pack up and drive down to watch my niece so that we can welcome this new one.
Yes. Well, so if we see
hopefully,
you checking your phone or
yeah,
anything crazy, or you're suddenly like, I have to go.
yeah, hopefully we can get through this. But yeah, baby watch, exciting.
That is exciting. Now, I haven't asked. Is this going to be your first niece or nephew?
No, so on my husband's side, I have 3 nephews and a niece, and
Okay.
then my sister has a 5, almost 6-year-old daughter. So
Oh, okay.
yeah,
So you're experienced auntie.
yeah,
Yay. But it
yeah,
sounds like maybe first baby in a little bit.
yep, yeah. For my sister anyway, I've felt.
Sure.
Yeah, no, they're all like, even on my husband's side, the youngest are like 5 at this point. So.
Okay, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, it sounded like his.
Yeah, all new cribs and swings.
Yeah.
Like everything had been packed away or sent off, and now it has to come back.
Nice. Okay, well, we'll shift from baby talk to what we're here to talk about before I get caught all up in that.
Yeah.
So, let's say hi to the couple of people who are here that we can see. Hello, Diana.
Hi.
I am looking forward to the discussion as well. Hello, Doug. I'm glad you could make it, Doug. I know you weren't sure at first. So glad that you guys are here and joining us live. And hello to anybody who is watching this back. So, Alex, what are we talking about today?
So today we're going over the Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer. This was one we popped on the list, and like I've been kind of dreading getting to it.
I know when you put it on the list, I was like, really?
Even I was like, well, I'm in charge. Why am I doing this to myself?
I know. I was like, are we sure? And like the closer we got to it, the more I was like, are we sure?
Yeah. And so like I think we were cautious and we approached this in a good way where we knew we're not doing a cover to cover read, which would have gotten tricky, and we can get into why that would have been. We knew we were just going to do a selection because I don't think even assigned in schools anyone reads the whole thing. And then we paced it. We took our time. We did like 2 tales a week.
Yeah. And I think that was the way to go in a lot of ways. Like it made sense because in a lot of ways we kind of approached it how, at least in our experience, it probably would be approached in high school. So
true, yeah.
I think that, it worked out. It worked out. So I'm just realizing I didn't write down my letter grade. So I'm just going to sneak that while we're talking. So, okay, well, lead us away. The Canterbury Tales. We have 2 different editions. Tell me about yours.
Okay, so I have the Penguin Classics version. So, well, I guess background, we'll go over Geoffrey Chaucer first. So,
sure. Yeah.
I have, he was born circa 1343, died around 1400. So this book is old. And he is considered the father of English literature. He was a philosopher, astronomer, and a public servant. He was a diplomat, member of the Parliament of England, and he was a shire knight for Kent. I don't know what a shire knight is. It just makes me think of like hobbits. So that's just
what I was going to think. I was like, Lord of the Rings.
So I just picture him with hairy little feet. Well, I guess big feet. Big hairy feet.
And armor.
So, yeah, I don't think that's an accurate vision of Chaucer to have. Anyway, and so the Canterbury Tales, this is considered his magnum opus. Written in Middle English, which I think is why I was so intimidated by it, knowing that it's a translated thing. I just figure it's going to be impossible to understand. and also written in verse. So all these things just layered made it like feel like unapproachable. But we'll get into that because I was pleasantly surprised actually by the stories. And then the other thing to note is that most scholars believe this is unfinished and all out of order too. So between my edition and your edition, nothing was in the same place.
Yeah. In terms of background, I think that was the thing when like kind of reading the introduction to my book, because this was one of the few things that I felt like, okay, you're not really gonna spoil anything for me. So in reading a little bit of the introduction of my book and looking up some other things as to like what the Canterbury Tales really is, that was the point that really stood out to me. Was I was like, how did I not realize that this was an unfinished work and that basically they were like when he died in clearing out his office or whatever, they just found papers all over the place, stacks of papers and manuscripts. And it was of the Canterbury Tales, which he initially handed out as like individual short stories sometimes to like friends and stuff. And so he didn't even necessarily, as far as they can tell, write them in a specific order, but wrote them like episodically. Like he probably wrote the prologue first and then the next tale or two. Because I think in everybody's edition, the first couple of stories, like the night story is always the first story.
Yeah.
And then that after that, like you said, they get out of order because they were out of order. Like they were just all over his office or wherever, you know, in piles of papers. And some of them are only fragments. And that was really what stuck with me was I was like, I did not realize that because like you said, as we were trying to figure out the order of reading, we were like, wait a minute, we don't have them in the same order. And then we realized, wait, we don't even have the same stories.
It drove me insane, honestly, because I'm like, well, then what's the right way to read it?
Right.
How are we like, I want to know the right way because in between each story, each character has like a little prologue. They're kind of setting up their story. There's some other conversations. And like, if you change the order that they're in, all of that changes. So yeah, that kind of became a distraction to me for a first little bit. I had to let go of it eventually. I let go of that.
Yeah. It is a fascinating like detail though that either got forgotten in time after, you know, since being out of school or was never mentioned. I'm sure it was probably just forgotten by me.
Yeah. Did you have history with this book? Had you read it in school, either high school or college ever?
I did not. So no, I'm sorry. I don't think that's true. I think we read a few of the stories, like probably as a short story or something like that, because I'm familiar with the Canterbury Tales and I know it would have been from high school, not college, because I'm pretty sure I intentionally avoided all Middle English literature as much as my field of study allowed. But I remembered nothing. It might have even been late middle school where we were introduced, but I don't have any recollection of it coming up in high school. I don't remember any of the stories. And even as I reread them, I was like, yep, remember none of this. So.
Yeah, same for me. Like I have a visual memory of like my 12th grade classroom and like sitting in a desk with the teacher in front. And so I'm wondering if she read it to us in Middle English and then translated, because my memory is it being like I said, like could not understand a thing. And she really had to like pull it out. And I'm like, oh, that's all it's saying? Okay, that's not as hard as it felt. So I'm wondering if she read it to us in Middle English just to give us that like flavor of this as a historical piece of literature.
Yeah, I feel like also that if I had any contact with it, that it was also in the Middle English and not like a modernized version of it. Which, getting to our books, if you want, I think we both read more modern versions of it, right?
Yeah. Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Because mine is a Barnes & Noble's Classic Edition, and is translated by Peter Tuttle. And mine is set up what I feel like is a pretty standard way of doing it, where Peter Tuttle's, more modernized English is on the right-hand page, and on the left-hand page, mine has the sort of original text, and mine was still in verse.
Do you read the original text when you have that set up there?
I don't, because I feel like if I try and do it simultaneously on a first reading, then I lose comprehension of the story as a whole. So what I did in this was I marked like my favorite passages or favorite moments, and after the fact, I would go back to those and I would look at it in Middle English. And typically I didn't find enough of a difference to want to keep doing that. So I think I did it for the first story or two and then stopped checking.
I think it would be interesting. I think I will look up eventually like the Middle English, just because the only other thing is like I like listening to like Beowulf. Like I'll pull up a recording of someone performing it in Old English, and that is like I can't understand a word. So I wonder if like I could feel the shift as we get into like Middle English.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
It, like some of the words look similar enough where like I feel like if I'm reading out loud, I might be able to hear like the similarities.
Yeah. 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 Because sometimes the words are the same, they're just slightly different. And then sometimes the words are like totally different. And you're like,
what?
Wait, what? Like, but you might have like, but then there's times where it's like, the word in the translation might be meadow, but the original word was mead.
Right.
In context, I feel like, I'd still have gotten that. So Doug was asking, was he Sir Joffrey?
So I guess so. Yeah.
I would also assume so.
Yeah.
Doug has his lovely The Pilgrims on Springbrook road trip. Oh, yes. Great example. Oops, I'm just realizing I must not have muted my phone. Sorry. But go ahead.
So yeah, that was it. I just remember it being introduced in the classroom. And so I guess I also just remember that it's a story of a pilgrimage and that we get to hear a poem for each person. I think that led me to believe it was more like biographies on each person going in. That's what I expected the tales to be. So general summary.
Can I just add that like I was totally messed up going into this book. I forgot that it was poetry.
Wow.
And so as soon as I opened the prologue, I was like, oh yeah, okay.
And that the prologue is, I don't know. I was expecting it to be more like an introduction than it is. The prologue is like we're jumping right into the story.
Yeah, like, no. As soon as I saw it was poetry, I was like, I remember nothing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does. The word prologue, I thought it was going to be like an author's introduction.
Yeah. Like I thought, yeah, it's going to like ease us into like what's going to be going on. And like it kind of does, but it kind of doesn't. So yeah, basically the prologue gives us like the framing of the book. It's the stories within one big story. So as the story opens up with that prologue, we get this description of the springtime weather and how that inspires people to go on a walk, on a pilgrimage. And so the narrator finds himself at an inn at the beginning of this journey, and a whole bunch of other people have also shown up to go, let's see, the Shrine of St. Thomas Becket at Canterbury Cathedral. And I don't remember what was so special about Sir Thomas Becket that he had a shrine. Do you remember?
Nope, but I can look it up while you talk. I did look it up and immediately forgot because I feel
like that purpose of their pilgrimage, like
there is a connection.
Yeah, like there doesn't seem to be much about that. Like what inspires everyone to go to this particular place? Like it just ends up being about all the different people on the journey. But yeah, so the night before they're starting their pilgrimage, an innkeeper hosts a dinner and there's drinking, and he decides like, hey, let's make this a game. I'm going to join you guys. And on the way, everyone's going to tell 2 stories. And on the way back, everyone will tell 2 more stories. It's a storytelling competition. Loser has to pay for the whole trip. And yeah, I'll decide who the winner is. And so the rest of the book is basically each person taking turns telling a tale. So then here's where, if you do the math, this is definitely unfinished because that should be 4 tales per person. We're told there's 30 people on the pilgrimage?
Something like that, yeah.
If you number them as they're introduced, it's not 30 people.
Yeah. Like the math is not mathing in any of this.
I was trying so hard to make it work. I was like, maybe this is the same person, or maybe this person got counted twice. Could not make the math work as far as like how many people are on this pilgrimage.
Yeah.
Either way, it does not add up to each person telling 4 tales because we only get 24 tales.
Yeah. And it wasn't just us like not being able to calculate that. Like even scholars don't agree on how many people are actually listed.
Yeah. It was
because the way he writes it is like unclear who he is and isn't counting, but it's clear he's not counting everyone he mentions.
Right.
Or that some of the people he mentions are mentioned twice under different names in a way that's unclear.
And so I got really hung up on this and I'm trying to make it work. And I'm like, no, I'm going to figure this out. And you're like, scholars cannot figure this out. I'm like, I'm going to crack it.
Yeah. If you like a book to have unintentional mysteries and like things to solve, this is a book for you. Yeah. There should be 120 tales or something like that. And I remember after reading the prologue and like understanding the sort of framing narrative as to why these stories are being told, I was excited. I was like, oh, this is a competition. And I was like, and they're going to figure out whose story is the best? Like, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. I was like, oh, okay, I see where it's going. And I see why we're going to get so many tales. I still think I expected something different.
What did you expect? I mean, you mentioned it slightly earlier.
Yeah. So, like I said, the prologue goes through everyone who has convened to start this pilgrimage, names them all, gives a little bit of a description from the narrator's point of view as he's kind of sitting back and observing them. And I found it fascinating. Like here we have a knight, we have landowners, then we have clergy, then we have laborers. And I really thought that even within this competition, it would be people telling stories, like their own stories. And like, so who can present their life in the most entertaining, like best storytelling way would be the competition. That's not at all what ended up happening.
Yeah. And that really threw us both for a loop, I think, because I was also expecting the same thing. And it's not like he said that the stories were going to be about the people, but he does say something in the prologue. I think he builds up like that the best kind of stories or something like that are stories about yourself in your own life or something like that, or somebody, one of the characters says that or something. There was something in the prologue that led us both to that conclusion that we were about to hear a certain type of story until we did it.
Yeah. I think I also had in my mind that this is an important piece of like in the history of literature, and that we're going to use it to look at what society would have been like at, this sort of medieval society or whatever, and like all the different classes of people. And I figured the way we do that is by reading each person's life story. And come to a common ground that here they're all on this, they ended up in the same place, the same pilgrimage, even though they're from all different walks of life. Yeah. So like that's what made sense to me going in and what I expected. So
and of all the stories we read, there was only one character who actually did that.
Right. Yeah. So it took me a while to let go of that expectation and just enjoy the stories for what they were.
Yeah.
Like, in fact, at the end, I had to go back and like, okay, once I get rid of that, can I enjoy each story a little bit more?
Yeah. 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 Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's funny because we both had problems with it and having to get over it in the first story, but it like we ended up in different places after that first story. Yeah. But before we get into that, let's just go and see what some people are talking about. I did ask everybody what translations they used. And Doug was saying that he's pretty sure both his trips were on the Penguin bus. Diana was going back to the discussion on knights and was saying maybe it was the fault of Henry VI when he asked his knights to get rid of him. Or King Henry II. Oh, like he got rid of the knights, you mean? I don't know about that. My history of the kings is awful.
Yeah.
Awful / non-existent. And with the math, had fun with Moby Dick. But I feel like some of the math in Moby Dick like actually works out. I think it was just that this math was like he was saying one number and setting up one expectation and then doing something else. I almost want to say that it was in the trying to figure out the numbers that we finally figured out that it was unfinished work.
Right. Yeah.
I think that's when we dug up that information because we were like, why is this so chaotic?
Yeah, it went from like, what am I missing? Why am I not able to make sense of this? Like, am I just like dense right now? And then that's, where we watched some videos, did some Googling, Wikipedia, and was like, oh, it's unfinished. Okay.
Right. This is where in a class, your teacher would have given you an introduction to the story and you would have known that beforehand.
Yeah. And maybe she did. I'm just
saying like where high school students would have an advantage over us. So, yeah. So we mentioned, do we want to talk about our pairings, I guess? I don't know. Where do you want to go from here?
Yeah. So I already mentioned we did not read cover to cover. So we picked what, from my understanding, are the most commonly covered in high school was The Knight's Tale, The Miller's Tale, The Wife of Bath, The Pardoner, The Nun's Priest. And then based off of the prologue, we added our own, we added The Franklin's Tale because, the description of that character in the prologue seemed the most interesting, or like he seemed like the best guy in the group.
Yeah, because there were, after the prologue, one, I think we were both like, oh, now we want to read all the tales, but we agreed not right now. And then I think there were a couple, like it kind of made us reconsider all of the stories that we wanted to read. Yeah. And then that was when we realized we don't have the same stories, because there were some of the stories that I was interested in that I was like, oh, we don't have those. And you were like, yeah, no, it's in the book. And I'm like, it's not in my book. And then that's when we figured out like, oh, we don't even have the same set of stories.
Yeah.
Because that is a difference. The most editions, if you pick them up, will tell you in their introduction or somewhere basically which scholar's version of the Canterbury Tales they're following, and what is and isn't included. And I know this one is a particular scholar's like accepted stories, but it only includes the ones that were complete. And then I think the Penguin one, I think the most complete in terms of it includes like all the fragment ones as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what we figured out, because I have a lot of like the conversations between characters thrown in. Yeah. Once we figured out, like, I don't think anything that we had picked to read, like we had anything missing between the two of us.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
So I think, yeah, the ones that are most commonly taught in school must be like the most generally agreed on. Like, these are set, go for these.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what it seems like. Yeah.
Yeah. So should we do a rundown of what each tale was? Because then we can get into, we got silly with the March Madness vibes going on with the college basketball. That's what my husband was watching. And then I was like, well, we're going to do our own March Madness bracket.
Yeah. And I have our bracket, but I just realized that I only downloaded our completed bracket that has the winners on it. So you guys will have to wait till the end if you want to see who won our brackets. But I was thinking that we could talk about them in the bracket pairings.
Okay. All right. Well, so on one side, we started with the Knight's Tale, and we're saying he basically was the first seed, right? So he gets a buy-in. He's not going up against anyone in the first round.
Yeah. So we can talk about him separately, and then I guess go.
Okay. Yeah. Hold on. Let me see if I have. All right. So what's our first pairing then? Oh, the Pardoner's Tale against the Nun's Priest's Tale.
The Pardoner's against the Nun's Priest. Okay. So do you want to talk about the Knight's Tale first, since he's the first story, and then we can talk about the Pardoner's and the Nun's Priest?
Sure. Sure. Yeah. All right. So the Knight's Tale. So one thing I noticed in all of the stories is that you start with one thing, and then the story goes completely off in another direction. So ultimately, the Knight's Tale ends up being the story of two cousins who were taken as prisoners of war by, was it King Theseus?
Yes. Yeah.
This one had a very Greek mythology like vibe, and we were coming off of reading the Odyssey, so like it felt very familiar. But yeah, these two cousins taken as prisoner of war. While they're in their jail cell, they spy out the window the queen's sister, Emily, and immediately infatuated, in love. She's perfect. They both love her more than the other. Eventually, both are out of jail. One is freed, and the other one has escaped. And when they meet back up, they fight over... They fight for the hand of Emily. The king intervenes and says, we're going to do this the right way. You're going to fight as knights. And so the story ends up being about this, following the code of chivalry to win the fair maiden.
Fair lady. Yeah. Emily, who has the most, like, I think because Emily is still a common name today, it feels so out of place in the story.
It threw us both.
Everybody else had what felt like, what we associate with like Greek mythological names, and then Emily.
Yeah.
We were
There's
like
King Theseus and Queen Hippolyta and Emily.
Yeah. So, all right. So that was our quick little wrap up. Hello to Stephanie and Cool Gamer who have popped in. And real quick before we go back to the Knight's Tale, Diana did drop in the chat some more information about what may have happened with Thomas Becket. and the Archbishop of Canterbury. So Henry wanted, and why King Henry would have wanted to get rid of him and his knights. So that was her explanation as to what may have gone on there. And Stephanie dropped in. And Diana was also saying entered the church and did him in on the inside of the church. Oh, interesting. Some medieval, like, conspiracy backstabby stuff. And it can be found in Sharon Penman's series When Christ and His Saints Slept. Oh. I know she writes a lot of books during that time period. So I just wanted to get to that real quickly. But okay, The Knight's Tale. So if you are in the chat or watching this back, let us know what your thoughts were on The Knight's Tales. The tale, there was only one. And what were your thoughts? What was your reaction?
So because it's the first one we read after the prologue, like I said, it threw me where I was like, this isn't the knight telling a tale of one of his campaigns, because it's explained in, as the narrator is opening the story, he's saying this knight was here and he was known for this, for going on this campaign. He was this type of person. So I expected a more like individual story to come from him. Like, let me tell you my experience. And the fact that he basically is just telling us. So it was actually taken from a poem called The Theseid, or Concerning the Nuptials of Emily by Giovanni Boccaccio. So it's just retelling the story out of this poem. That's not what I expected. So I didn't love it. I was also a little upset with the fact that Emily had no say in the matter while these men fought over her. She didn't want to marry either of them. But,
Yeah. And I too went into it expecting the tale to be like some story about one of the knight's many adventures. I appreciated that it was still kind of sort of a story about knights. Not really, because they weren't really knights.
The code, what is it? The code of chivalry, chivalric code, like fighting the right way as gentlemen.
Right. It was like, let's if we're gonna duel, that's fine, but we have to have it in the appropriate manner. But at the end of the day, I had a different experience. I loved it. I found it really entertaining. To me, like, I was like, where's the like modern day like retelling fantasy story about this? Because to me, like, I also though had to let go of the idea that the story was going to be about him. I was like, oh, okay, you're just telling a story.
So that I think it just took me a while to let go of that. And so at the end, when I did go back and go, oh, the story he told though was actually pretty good.
Right. Yeah. So like I thought his little bit of introduction, I was like, wait, where are we going with this? But then once we were in the story, I was like, oh, this is actually a really kind of fascinating story, because they're like ready to duke it out while they're still in the jail cell. Like the one cousin's like, but hey, we're cousins. Blood is thicker than the water. And the other guy's like, you're dead to me. Like, I'm getting the girl. And so I thought it was like kind of dramatic and fun, and like, your typical like Emily's like passing out and weeping, there's some interesting scenes in there that I thought would be like really well done cinematically. I think it would make a fun fantasy retelling. So I really liked it. The only thing I
brought like the Greek gods, the pantheon, into the story as well. And like I said, we were coming off of reading the Odyssey, so I was like, ooh, this is fun.
Yeah, it brought me right back into that mood, which I think was why I was like, there's so many like myth retellings and like modern retellings of things. I'm like, somebody needs to do the tale that's within the Knight's Tale, because that would be, to me, a fun story to read. And I think like there's so much of it that you could flesh out. The only thing I didn't like about it was there was one point where like each of the main characters goes and visits a temple and like prays to a god, like asking for like a positive outcome. That was fine. I liked that. What I didn't like was his listing of the description of every single little item. It felt like that was in the temple.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what it felt like. It just felt like a list of things. Like there was a potted plant, there was a curtain, and like all those things had meaning. And I felt like would tell us about the type of person who would go and pray there. But the way it was done was boring as all get out.
We're not obscure gods either. So it was a very Greek story, but always use the Roman name for the gods, which kind of threw me. But basically we had, well, the Greek name would be Ares. So is that Mars? I don't know. It's basically Ares and Aphrodite and Athena. Are like the three temples that they go to. And like, so I don't think he had to spend all that time describing the way each temple was decorated.
I felt like it was I felt like it was indirect characterization, but I feel like because it wasn't incorporated in with the character and it was just in list form, I was like,
yeah. Well, I think if you tell me this one went to the temple of Ares, I would get it. This one went to the temple of Aphrodite. Oh, okay, he's valuing romance over war. This one's valuing war. Athena, she's just valuing her own, like.
Yeah. And instead, what I got out of it was Chaucer's valuing list.
Yeah.
So it was not a style of translating and communicating that information that I enjoyed. Right. So that part of the story, I was like struggling to stay awake as I went through his list of all three temples. And like it went on for a couple of pages.
Yeah.
And then we got to the characters going and I was like, oh, that's why he gave us that. But
right. Wow, coming off of that, you could see how they each prayed for something slightly different. And then the gods are like, well, we're going to make every one of you like happy. Like everyone can win. And so seeing how this battle is going to play out so that everyone gets what they prayed for, that was fun. I really did like that part of the story.
Yeah. That was cool. It was cool, like what happened after the fact. Just it was a slog going through the swamp of information. Doug was saying Emily's lack of agency. That's why people like the Franklin's Tale way better.
Ooh, I think you're onto something, Doug.
Yeah, because she definitely had, because they go to the temple to pray, each of the guys, for like, you know, what they want and how they want Emily to love them. And Emily's like, please don't make me marry either of these guys. Like, escape. That's what I want.
Yeah.
So.
And Athena's like, we've already decided you will, but you'll be fine. It'll be fine. Just trust us.
Yeah. So we landed in two very different places at the end of the Knight's Tale. So we were like, okay, story number one, we're in different places on this. We definitely need to keep reading.
Okay. Which one do you want to talk about next?
Well, the next that are bracketed with it are Pardoner's Tale and Nun's Priest's Tale. So whichever of those.
Okay. The Pardoner's Tale. Let's do that one first. So the Pardoner's Tale ends up it felt really familiar to me as we were reading it. So I feel like all of these things we probably interacted with some version of them. But ultimately we have these three. My book called them rioters and your book called them revelers. I feel like I really like either word choice. I just thought it was interesting that our translations describe them differently. But they are told by an old man that death, like the figure death, capital D, is they can find him under a tree. And so they go to defeat him, basically get rid of death. I guess, what do you remember what exactly their purpose was? Like, what was their motivation in this? I guess not dying, right?
I have totally forgot about that. They did have a reason. Mm-mm. Let me see if I can find it real quickly.
Yeah. I don't know. But so they're told, all right, well, death is under that tree. They go to the tree, and instead of death, they find treasure. And they talk about how they're going to split it 3 ways, but actually what they're each calculating silently is how they can swindle the other. And you kind of see where this is coming. All 3 of them end up dead. So death was indeed waiting for them under the tree.
Yes.
Very clever.
Yes. And I did get it. So they had heard of how death is a plague that is killing everyone they know.
Okay.
And it's good to, one of the things that's good to know is that the setting and time of when this entire pilgrimage is supposed to be taking place is basically at the point where the plague has passed through, lots of people have died, and you're finally at the point where, like, you no longer have to social distance. Like, we can all relate to this, and people are finally coming back out, and everybody feels safe enough to go back on these pilgrimages, which I did look up, and people would go on the pilgrimage just to seek help from the shrine for different things in life. But back to the story, the 3 revelers, they hear about how death is a plague that's killing everybody. And death is kind of personified in the way that they hear about it and talk about him. And they seek out death because they want to exact revenge on death for having, done so much injury to people in their area. So certainly a relatable feeling.
Yeah. Interesting how we can relate to it now so much stronger than, when we would have read it in high school.
Yeah. So what were your thoughts on this one?
I thought this one was like darkly fun. I really liked it. Like I said, it felt kind of familiar. Like, I'm sure this sort of story, like, device has been done before, where, like, they're actually all stabbing each other and nobody wins. Yeah. Or maybe not done before, but done since. Yeah.
It did make me question, like, which came first, the Chaucer or the egg.
Yeah.
Because I agree, like, that was one of the things that I liked about it, was that it felt familiar. And it felt like a short story type that I liked. It kind of reminded me of Edgar Allan Poe.
Oh, yeah.
Like, the type of story that, like, I could see him writing, like that kind of, like, semi-gothic vibe. Not as gothic as Edgar Allan Poe, but
well, he has what one of his short stories is about, right? Like a plague and a party or something like that, but like death visiting. I haven't read too many of his short stories, Poe, but yeah, they definitely feel similar to that. This one is probably one of the easier tales, I think, to like pick out the moral of the story.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I had written in my framing narrative that the partner, he's the one who, in his sort of introduction to the story, because some of the stories, you meet the character who's telling it first, and like they kind of have a little introduction and a little conversation or whatever, and then they tell their story. And the partner was the one who is like a shockingly moralless guy who has like this funny like speech that he gives about how like it doesn't really matter what he's like because you're gonna like his story anyway. And he's the one, right, that is like, my story is going to be moral and you're going to enjoy it.
Well, he gives us this like, here's what I do, here's how I make money. I trick people into feeling awful about themselves and coming to confess to me and pay me for like absolving them of their sins. And like, here's all the ways I do that and how I manipulate people. But I'm really good at it. And like, I'll prove it to you by telling you this story with a strong moral like tale element to it, and you're going to feel the same way.
Yeah. Yeah. The story is supposed to be a moral lesson about gluttony. And he tells them that it's going to be.
Yeah.
And as far as morality tales go, I'm like, that's a pretty good one. Like,
yeah, so that was an interesting one. I was like, no, yeah, I guess we did fall for your game because that story, it worked.
Yeah, I liked the story. I don't know that nowadays it would make me feel bad, but it may have very well worked at the time. Mm-hmm. There was some other thing that I was going to say about that story.
Okay, I see Doug put in Poe's Mask of the Red Death. It was like Mask of something. It's Mask of something. I couldn't think of the title.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right. And it must have been the genesis of Reservoir Dogs. I don't know that one. But yeah, I mean, it's probably the genesis of a lot of stories that are like that, you know? Yeah, I liked this story. I even kind of liked the partner, like his conversation itself. I was a little like, nobody's going to say anything about like how shockingly he has no morals.
Yeah. So like, I don't like the partner. I like reading his introduction. And that's how I felt through a lot of the prologue, where a lot of the descriptions felt a little bit satirical, because there's a lot of different types of like clerics, and the way they're described, like no one sounds like completely good. So that's another thing. Like, I was looking forward to seeing the satire and like getting to know each personality of like the priests, the monks, and how they like don't fit what you would expect of their position. So yeah, it was interesting reading the partner's prologue and then the story.
Yeah, for sure. It was one of the ones that I liked. Yeah. Okay, the Nun's Priest Tale. And feel free, if you are in the chat or in the comments later, to let us know what your star rating was or what your thoughts were on any of these. What was the Nun's Priest Tale about?
It was, now this is where it felt the more fable-y of the tale. So this one, the main character is actually a rooster. We start with this description of a farm and the wife of the farmer looking out, and then all of a sudden we're like in the hen house with the rooster, and he's actually the main character. So this beautiful rooster, the most gorgeous of roosters, Chanticleer, I think, he has a dream, and when he's telling his most favorite wife of his like 7 or 8 hens, he describes a red face killing him, and she kind of like dismisses it. But then the next day there's a fox in the farm, and the fox tricks the rooster into coming closer. The fox grabs him by the neck, runs off, and then we get this chase scene of like everyone on the farm like chasing after. It reminded me of the Gingerbread Man. Like, I could picture that, like one person taking flight and then the next person chasing that person and that person. And then the rooster convinces the fox to taunt the chasers, and when the fox does so, the rooster flies away. Then the rooster has learned now not to fall for the fox's tricks. Basically, in a nutshell, that's all it goes.
Yeah, I kind of compared it to like Aesop's fable or any of those types of fables that are featuring anthropomorphic. Is that the word is? I don't know why it just left me, but that are featuring like talking, speaking animals, and have a moral or lesson to learn, which really felt like where did that story come from?
Yeah, I was kind of like, what? So like Aesop's fables, we get this like proud rooster. Like the animals fit a trait. So we've got the pride, and then we've got the trickster fox, and them playing on each other's weakness, I guess.
I think this was the story that made me go, oh, this really is like a collection of short stories.
Yeah.
Because it just felt so different. And I think initially I wanted there to be really strong coherence between each of the stories. Like I was expecting them to be the same types of stories, like in terms of formatting and that kind of thing. And to all be like morality tales or all, which to some extent they are, but like I was expecting them to be more similar than they were.
Yeah, I didn't care for this one. I was just looking at my own like little star rating, and this one was like a 2-star for me.
It was a 3.5 for me. Yeah, this was not one of my favorites. I thought it was okay. Like it just wasn't. I don't know if it was still. I was kind of like, this seems so left field to suddenly go towards this, but I also felt like the lead up getting into the story was odd. I don't know. Doug was saying these stories were all over the map. They really were.
Yeah.
And I was not expecting that. But yeah, this one is just
like,
okay for me.
If this was his 4th tale that he's supposed to be telling in this competition, I could see where like he's reaching, but we're only getting one from each person, and like that's the one we got. It felt like a big tone shift, like it felt very random.
Yeah. Well, so how did the Nun's Priest tale match up to the Partner's Tale for us? Because that was the first pairing, the first face.
Yeah. So where for me the Nun's Priest was 2 stars, the Partner's Tale got like a 3.5 star for me. So that one for me.
Yeah, and I had the Nun's Tale at a 3.5, and the Partners at a 4. So to figure out who won, we just added our points together, and whoever had the most points, moved on to the next round. Mm-hmm. So for us, it ended up being the Partner's Tale going up against the Knight's Tale. Right?
Yep.
Is that right? Yeah. And what did you give the Knight's Tale? I don't think we...
the Knight's Tale was 4 stars for me.
Yeah, and it was 5 stars for me. Like I was surprised by it. And I will add, that's what I was trying to think of earlier, that it was at the point when we were reading the Partner's Tale that we finally realized, wait a minute, what are we actually judging here? Because if you go to read the Partner's Tale, most editions will include the conversation, if any, that's happening or a speech that person gives, and then that leads into their actual story. So we did end up deciding that for our March Madness bracket, we were only going to rate the actual story that they tell, like what the host or the innkeeper, what he would have rated. So it's basically the narrative within the narrative, the story within the story.
And that was, so should we talk about the Wife of Bath's tale? Because for me, that's where I was like, how am I supposed to judge this? Like her prologue was bananas.
Yeah, that was another place where we were definitely like, okay, yeah, we definitely need to be judging the tale. Otherwise, some people were going to lose just on whether or not we liked the introduction to their story. And Doug was sharing that he would also go with the Partner's Tale over the Nun's Tale.
Yeah, so, I feel like that was an easy one.
Yeah. Would you guys go with the Partner's Tale over the Knight's Tale or the Knight's Tale over the Partners? Because we went Knight. We were Team Knight. But yeah, let's go to the Wife of Bath's Tale, because I feel like that's the one that everybody knows or thinks they know, or at least knows the name of.
Yeah. So like I said, her prologue was weird. Where like I finished that one is one where we kind of split. We had to like check in with each other after the prologue before even going into the tale. Yeah, she's giving her history as someone who's had 5 husbands, and here's her approach to like gender roles and in marriage and all that. Okay.
She went on for a while.
I was like, I don't know if Chaucer likes women or not. Like, I don't know if she likes women or not. Does she like marriage or not? She's certainly done it a lot of times.
Yeah.
Her
Talks about
tale,
all her
though,
marriages.
her tale, though, I enjoyed. So, well, not the beginning. It opens with a knight assaulting a maiden he comes across. Yeah, so it opens with the sexual assault, and then as a punishment, the knight is told, like, all right, either we kill you, I guess, or you go off, you have a year to find the answer to the question, what do women want? And then return to the queen at the end of the year and tell us what you figured out. So as that time is running up, he comes across this ugly old woman who is like, I will give you the answer, but you'll owe me. Like, you're gonna have to repay me with whatever when I ask it of you. And he's like, yes, sure, I'll do it. So she gives him the right answer, which is basically women want what, equality, or it's something along that, like respect, or like a mutual.
No, it's kind of like to
be understood. I forget.
To kind of have like power over the guys indirectly.
Okay.
But like to like, it initially sounds like it's going to be equals in the relationship, but at the end of the day, it's kind of like how the wife of Bath said her relationships were with her husband, where what women truly want is to have like some power in the relationship, even if it's like indirectly. It reminds me of My Big Fat Greek Wedding. Like, yeah, you can be the head, but
I'm the neck.
We want to be able to be the neck.
Yeah.
That was the gist of what I got from what she was saying.
So yeah, this answer satisfies the queen. His life is spared. So now his repayment that the old woman demands is that he marry her. And he absolutely objects. Will not, you're old, you're ugly, you're disgusting. And at which point she moralizes to him. And she's like, you call me these things, but like, all right, you know, here's why these qualities would have been worse. You know, it becomes like a very on the nose, like drawn out moralizing that I don't think you enjoyed, right?
It wasn't my favorite part of this story. I'm partially just because I thought it was too drawn out. Because like he mentions like 3 specific reasons that she doesn't want to get with that he doesn't want to get with her, basically. And she does like a good job of rhetorically like refuting him, but it didn't feel natural as part of the story.
Yeah.
It felt like, okay, here's your lesson for today, children. You know, you think you need to be, you know, here's why you shouldn't be superficial. Yeah. You know,
and if I agree that like at some point it felt like she was like beating a dead horse. Like we get it. Yeah. And so I would have to say that wasn't unique to this story, though. I think in everyone we read, at some point, I glossed over and skimmed in every one of the stories, every one of the tales.
Yeah. And it's hard to say because, I mean, this is such an old story that these ideas aren't new to us.
True.
And so I think it's hard to experience these stories as fresh and new, even if you're not familiar with them, because you're familiar with that tale. You're familiar with the morality thing. Like I knew as soon as she was like, well, you said these 3 things, I was like, oh, she's going to counter all 3 with arguments. I mean, even as he was saying them, because he was kind of like, well, you're this, and this is what I think that, and you're that. And I was like, oh no, are we listing the ways that she's not right for you? And she's, you know, so it does make it a little predictable because it's so much the basis of our stories. So I think that's always tricky as a modern day reader to read something this old and read it as people would have experienced it at the time. Like it's virtually impossible to do.
Yeah. So yeah, she responds to all his objections, but ultimately doesn't matter turns out the old ugly woman was a disguise and she's actually beautiful and they live happily ever after. Yeah.
Surprise. Now that you've cracked the code and accepted me as I am, it kind of had like a Disney fairy tale kind of weird twisting kind of.
Yeah, it reminded me of Beauty and the Beast. Except the Beast was cursed instead.
Yeah. But it does. It like again, it felt familiar.
Yeah.
Like surely it has been rewritten. Maybe he wasn't even the first person to tell that kind of story, that kind of thing. Yeah, for sure. And then Doug was saying that the answer to what women really want was the same as Tolkien's on men in general at the beginning of Lord of the Rings. Men / everyone want power. Yeah. Yeah. So I didn't hate this one. I just didn't love it. But I think after we talked about it, I liked it better. And especially once we got to the point where we were like, okay, we're just going to judge the tale, which was the tale of the night and him trying to find this answer, not everything that the wife of Bath said. Because that would have definitely changed how I rated it. But I gave it a 4. I thought it was good.
I gave this one, like a 3.5, 4. I think you rated all of them slightly higher than I did. I think in general, just because, like I said, every one of them had a moment where I just glazed over.
Yeah, I did too. I had moments where, like, the list of the temples. Like Chaucer likes list.
Yeah.
If which I feel like might work well for postmodern readers because postmodern writers tend to list things. So if you like a lot of postmodern writing, you might love Chaucer's writing style. If you like a list of everyday things.
Yeah. So I like the fairy tale vibes of that one, and that's a point where I let go of what my expectations of the story were, and I could just like the story itself.
Yeah. And then interestingly, even though the wife of Bath is paired with the Franklin's Tale, the Franklin's Tale was not the next one that we read, because I think the way we ended up reading them kind of had us bounce back and forth across the chart. Because I think we actually read the Miller's Tale as like the second or third.
That was the second one we read.
Yeah. So we kind of read them in a different order than was on our chart, which was a different order than they were in our books.
We're all over the place. But I mean, we were really embracing the like Chaucer chaos, I guess.
We read them in the order they were found on his desk.
Which is basically the stack of papers and you throw them in the air and then read them as they land.
And there were no staplers, so good luck.
Yeah.
Doug was saying good point about the modern day reader. Books took a turn for the best with the Victorians. Yeah, because I mean, as you go in, it's really not until the end of the 17th century that the modern concept of the novel even really starts coming into place. Like a good chunk of the 17th century, you have travel logs. That was what was popular. And then towards the end of that, like you start having fake travel stories that eventually morph more and more into what we think of as a novel. And apparently we rated all of them higher than Doug so far. Well,
but you did it, Doug. You were such a trooper with these book clubs.
Yes. All right. Shall we go to the Miller's Tale since we read that so much earlier and then end with the Franklin's Tale?
Yeah, the Miller's Tale. I had high expectations for the Miller's Tale.
Why?
Because I feel like that one I heard more buzz about and people saying like, this is the fun one. This is the bawdy one, the raunchy one, the like funny, like gross humor story.
Laugh out loud.
Yeah, just different vibe. And I was like, okay, so this is where we're gonna get like, here we have a knight and we have this guy, and like we're getting all the different types of personalities out of this group. And like definitely true. Different vibe. But
yeah, very different vibe. Yep.
Yeah.
And on a side note, in case you're being quizzed on this later, this is the story with the bathtub. I think
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The wife of Bath is from Bath, the place, which can be confusing for those of us, not in England and who maybe don't know our geography well or whatever. Because I feel like even one of the videos we watched talked about the wife of Bath's tale, and that the description they gave was actually of the Miller's tale.
Okay.
At least something I saw, I think, did that, but I might have still just been associating bathtub and bath. I don't know. But anyway, what was the Miller's Tale about?
So the Miller's Tale is about an old man, a carpenter, I believe, who marries a young and beautiful woman. And he's very jealous and very protective over her. But he rents a room to a scholar who becomes infatuated with the young wife and pressures her into having an affair with him. Yeah, really uncomfortable with how that affair begins. But yeah, so this beautiful wife is having an affair with the scholar, and they decide to come up with this elaborate ruse. They're going to basically prank the old man so that they can spend an entire night together and not like just sneak around, I guess. They want to spend the whole night together.
And the ruse involves like ladders and bathtubs and rafters and...
Yeah, he convinces this old man that like he can read the heavens and there's going to be a flood like Noah's flood from the Bible. Remember how bad that was? So what you're going to want to do is get bathtubs and just stay in the bathtub. So when the flood comes, you'll float and you'll be all set. Ultimately, well, what happens? There's another man who's also infatuated with the wife. And
she's apparently the only cute person in town.
Yeah. But even
he's like the flute player who keeps like being the creepy stalker playing flute outside her home.
Well, and I feel like even his infatuation with her was basically like, oh, because if she would have an affair, like, why not me too then? Like, if she's like that, then I deserve a chance too. Like, very not cool takeaway.
Yeah, no, he gets weird.
Female agency.
Yeah.
But anyway, he burns the scholar. The scholar screams for water. The old man wakes up, thinks it's the flood coming, and then he gets basically known as a fool. Not for his wife engaging in an affair under his nose, but being a fool because he's just this madman raving about a biblical flood. And that's the end of that story. Basically, I think. Like,
yeah, I mean, there's like a lot of little details that go on in the middle, but we didn't want to take the time to give full plot summaries, but more like just triggers to help you remember which story we're talking about. So,
yeah, just the bare bones of each story.
So Doug's comment is Miller's Tale raunchy? Yes. There was a lot of reference to various body parts getting burned, squeezed, groped, what have you, farts. Any good? No. Shakespeare played these games way better. So did Cervantes. I would agree with that. With that. I didn't mind this story, but I did feel like it was overhyped compared to some of the other stories we read in there.
Yeah. So this is my least favorite. I did not like it. And this was 1 star for me.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow, you really didn't like it.
I did not like it at all.
Wow, what got it down to a 1 star?
I don't know. Like, I think it was just like all of it coming together. Like, it just all felt too ridiculous to me. And again, so this is the second book we read. So the first one was The Knight's Tale. Did not like how Emily was not given any agency. And then in the second one, I don't like that this whole affair starts with the scholar grabbing the wife locker room talk style. And yeah, and even just then the other man who is obsessed with her and trying to like woo her out the window, and even her husband who knew he married a woman too young and too beautiful, that like, so he's going to be extremely jealous of her, like it's her fault. I still had this like modern woman reading this old story where like I just didn't like it.
Yeah, that's fair. That's totally fair. Yeah, I rated it way higher than you. I gave it 4. I thought it was a good story. I think for me, the bodiness in it and like the way the guy was acting, I wasn't surprised by, because the Miller,
Yeah.
the person telling the story, is known to be like a body storyteller and da da da. So I think I took it as his story, and I'm like, yeah, this sounds like the type of story that he would tell.
Yeah. Again,
So,
his prologue is he is drunk and he interrupts, and someone else was supposed to tell the story. And he's like, no, I got one for you.
Right. And so to me, that felt like internally consistent, that this would be the story that he would tell and that he'd find that funny. And so I think that, like, I was like, okay, you're like being kind of complex here. Like, you're not just telling a story, you're telling the story that this person in your story would tell. Mm-hmm. So I think that for me, like, obviously didn't make like what happened to the wife like okay, but made it make sense that the person telling this story would think like, because like I feel like I know that type of person. Like we all know that person who would tell this story and think it was a great story, and then we'd go, that's not a great story. Mm-hmm. And then I also just thought like it was a well put together and like coherent story. So I was like, okay, like I don't love it, but like I think it's a good story, which is a 4 for me. Mm-hmm. Doug thinks you're being generous with your 1 star. And he said to me, he'll see me at Comedy Central. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I just felt like even the whole ruse, the whole trick they play on the carpenter, like it starts with the scholar being like discovered like unconscious in his room. And I was like, oh, okay, he's going to pretend he's sick and she's going to have to nurse him and stay in his room all night and keep an eye on him.
Right.
But then it goes like 20 steps further. And I'm like, oh,
yeah,
too convoluted.
Yeah. I like convoluted like things. So it worked for me. But I can appreciate, like, if it was a standalone short story, I would probably feel way closer to where you are. Mm-hmm. I think within this story, it worked for me. So, okay.
And that leaves us with the Franklin's Tale, right? I think that's the last one.
Yeah. And it is the last one that we read. So going into this, I should point out that we more or less so knew that maybe the Knight's Tale was going to be in the finals. Mm-hmm. And we read the Miller's Tale and we read the Wife of Bath's Tale. And I think at that point, between our 2 numbers, they were pretty close somehow. Did you drop your Miller's Tale number down lower? Because I'm trying to figure out.
Well, I think the Miller's Tale wasn't being compared to anything. Like he was on the side of the bracket where like he didn't have a first round like competition, but we knew that like there was no way that would have gone.
So, yeah, that's right. So we knew the Knight's Tale was going to be in the finals, and it was up to the Franklin's Tale to decide who the Knight's Tale was going up against. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So tell us about the Franklin's Tale.
So the Franklin's Tale, again, the like bare bones, we have a knight and his wife who have a marriage that, like, my notes just say relationship goals. Like they have, upon getting married, had this heart to heart where they're like, here is how we will present our relationship and like how we will act and according to like what's expected outwardly, but also like within our relationship, here's how we will value and treat each other. Like, beautiful. Great.
Yeah.
But swearing to be loyal, honor each other. When the knight is away on a campaign, she is just besides herself miserable. Her friends take her out, like they take her to walk on the beach. She can't enjoy the beach because there's rocks along the shore, and like she could just picture her husband crashing upon them. Like she can't receive a letter from him because like in the meantime, like he might have died. Like she's
a mess. I think that was the point where I compared her to Brandon Fraser in Bedazzled, where he's the most emotionally sensitive man in the world. She could have been his wife, and then could have put a train wreck together.
Sunset. When is it going to set? And that was her on the beach.
Yes. Because I could be here with my loved ones watching the sunset, but I'm without him. Yeah, she was a wreck.
So her friends take her to a party.
As you do.
So they take her to a dance. She's miserable, but she's gorgeous. I don't know if I mentioned that. She's beautiful. And someone sees her, approaches her. He's, I guess, been in love with her in the background for years. I feel like he had it wasn't as insta love as the love in the Knight's Tale.
Yeah. No, it kind of gives him a backstory of having always pined for her. Yeah. And she's never noticed him.
Yeah, so she's approached by this admirer, and she has to dismiss him politely. You can't just insult a man and say, no, I love my husband, get lost. So she's like, if you could do this impossible thing, which is to get rid of those rocks on the shoreline, those gigantic rocks, one by one.
He's inevitably going to wreck his ship on.
Yeah. They're driving me crazy. I hate these rocks because my husband could become shipwrecked on them. If you manage to make those all disappear, I would be with you. That's the only
with you.
Yeah. And he's distraught because that's obviously impossible. His brother hates seeing him such a mess. So his brother comes up with this idea, let's go hire a magician because we can't actually make them disappear.
And his brother, by the way, is the Franklin.
Yeah. I could do a read through of this where I'm like mapping out some other connections. Because even the Miller's Tale, in making his main character a carpenter, there's a carpenter who gets really offended by it and is like, well, I'm going to tell a tale about this person. So there's some web. Yeah.
But anyway, sorry. So he wants to go to the magician.
He goes to the magician. The magician creates an illusion to make it appear that these rocks have disappeared. At which point now she owes him because, he did that impossible thing she asked, and that was her qualification for being with him. So now she is bereft all again. Like, what is she supposed to do? And she tells her husband, which I love.
Because he came back and didn't hit the rocks.
He did not die on these rocks. And so now he's like, why are you so upset? And she tells him, like, I made this promise and he came through. So I love that we avoid the like romance miscommunication trope. Like, she outright tells him, here's what's going on. And of course he's not happy with this, but he's also not happy with her being upset for having to like have a mark on her own sense of honor and not fulfill her word. So he tells her to go to this other man and be true to your word. But like, we're not going to talk about it because this actually makes me miserable.
Yeah. It's a real dilemma because at the beginning of the story, they make multiple vows and promises to each other. And hers is that I'm always going to be a humble and faithful wife. And I'm just always going to trust and love you and do everything that you ask of me. And his is that I'm not going to be an overbearing husband and I'm always going to, like deserve your trust and humility, and like, and it sounds like a very mutual and equal relationship based on the promises that they're going to make to one another based on their time period. Like it sounds pretty feasible. And so she's like, I said I was always going to be like true to you, but how do I do that in light of this? And I was shocked when his answer was, you do it, because I also really value keeping your word. And so he was like, so if you don't keep your word, that's going to reflect back on me. And I don't know how I'm going to be able to love you if you don't keep your word. So you need to go and be with this guy. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
That was not the solution I was expecting.
Right. And the Franklin within the storytelling, he does like this, okay, pause, listener. Like, you're not going to like this solution he came up with, but like, just let it play out.
Yeah. And I needed that note because I was about to be like, what the heck? How are you going to pretend to be this good guy? And so I do like the fact that the Franklin acknowledged that this was not an ideal solution and that people were going to have a problem with this being the knight's answer. I appreciated that part of the story because I was about to throw the book.
And I was like, this is all going to play out just fine, because it felt like a selfless, like he didn't want her to go to someone else, but like for her sake of like feeling guilt, like he was kind of absolving, kind of, I don't know, like it felt almost like a bit of a self-sacrifice on his
part. He was miserable about it as well. Like you felt that they felt stuck.
Where I think I had said at this point, it started reminding me of that biblical story, did you say it was King Solomon, where like the mothers are fighting over a baby, and we know the one who's willing to give up the baby instead of have it chopped in half is the, like, it's all going to work out because you made the selfless choice.
I was more like, please work out, like have her trip and fall, have somebody die on the way, like, because she leaves to go to the garden to like do the dang thing with the guy, and I'm like, she can't. Haven't they ever read a story before? This is going to ruin the relationship. Like I was hooked at that point.
Yeah. So yeah, she goes to this guy, and when he I don't think he could believe that she's there either. And she's like, well, my husband said it's okay. At which point he's like, you know what? Never mind. Forget it. Like, I can't believe your husband's such a good guy. Like,
right. He's upset that she's upset. And then he gets further upset that his husband's such a good person in terms of has so much honor.
Yeah.
That he would keep his word, even though it would hurt him and hurt her, and send him into his own tailspin.
Yeah, she has the honor of fulfilling this promise, even though she clearly doesn't want to. So you know what? He's just gonna let her out of it. Never mind.
Yeah, his own conscience gets struck. He's kind of like, what kind of person would I be if I was like, let's go through with it?
But he still has to pay the magician for the illusion. So when he goes to the magician and he reveals all, like, it didn't actually work out. Like, her husband was so honorable and she was so honorable. So I had to do the honorable thing and let her out of the promise. Like, I didn't, bank on your trick here. And the magician is so moved by his honor that he's like, you know what? Cancel the debt. Don't even worry about paying.
Yeah. Yeah. Because he also has a crisis of conscience. It's like, what kind of person would I be if you guys could be the better person in all of these situations? And I was still like, pay me.
Well, it's like the person at the like cafe, like the pass it on, right? Like the pay it forward. Like, you can't be the one to be like, okay, cool, free coffee.
Right. Thanks.
Yeah. No, you're supposed to pay for the next one.
Right.
Like, right. So.
Right. Yep. Yep. And then the whole story ends with the question, basically the Franklin comes back into the story and he was like, okay, that's my story. But my real question for you is, of all those people, who was the most generous one?
Yeah.
And then it ends there. Dun, dun, dun. So it's not really a morality story. It's more like a philosophical life question. or something. So, yeah, how did you like the Franklin's Tale?
This was my favorite of our selection. This was the most successful for me. However, still not a 5-star. Because there is a moment where the wife, in her own like personal crisis moment of dilemma, she goes on and on about all these different stories about other wives who ultimately all like chose death over whatever dilemma they were facing, and it is just story after story after story with an interruption,
right? Because
to say, like to be brief, like we don't have time for all the stories, but here's 20 more.
Right. Going back to the Chaucer loves a list, and this feature is in every single one of these stories in some manner. Yeah, it's like what, 2 or 3 pages of,
it's too
because
many
she's thinking that her only way out of this situation with the sky is if she unalives herself. So she's like, well, there's, like you said, a history of women who have all chosen that option in order to save their honor. Like, you would think like a couple of people. Oh, okay, that's good. Oh, okay, we have a whole list of people. And initially I was like, oh, I want to look up these stories. You could do an entire year-long curriculum based on the number of stories that this girl just chalks up randomly in this moment. And I'm like, we get it, Chaucer. You're well read. Please stop. Like,
yeah. And because like this isn't the only place where other stories are referenced, like it kind of felt like humble bragging, just like thrown in there. Like, look at all these stories I know, which is essentially what this whole book is. Like, he's recycling stories and just having a different character of his creation tell them. But
yeah,
I don't think they were necessarily all original stories.
Yeah. It was a little bit of, if you like this book, you'll like that book, but went on way too long. Like, is there literary historic value in what he did? Yes. Is there value as a reader in the short term? It was not good for the story itself.
Right. So when I said like there is not a story in here that I did not skim, that includes even my favorite one of the batch.
Yeah. I can totally relate to that. I also loved this story. I would say at the end of the day, it probably was my favorite story as well, which I guess means we've kind of given away the answer.
Yeah.
We did have the Knight's Tale go up against the Franklin's Tale. So I guess to back it up a little bit, I think once we read the Franklin's Tale, we both felt like it easily beat out the Wife of Bath's Tale.
Yeah.
Which meant we knew it was going to go against the Knight's Tale. And I think for me, I think it was closer than it was for you. For me, I enjoyed both of them. I think they both had like those listy moments that I didn't like. But I really loved the Franklin's Tale. It's like, I don't know that I would have loved the Franklin's Tale as much without that ending like question.
Which, did we mention the Knight's Tale also had a similar device in it?
No.
Yeah, so the Knight's Tale also does this thing where like we break in the story for the listener to be like, weigh in on this. Because like we mentioned, we've got the 2 princes who have been imprisoned. One of them is freed, but he's banned from the country, and Emily is in that country. So like, how miserable to be free but never able to be with your love. Or now his cousin is in prison but with Emily, so who has it worse? Well, that one wasn't easy.
Yeah. So I do like that he has like these dilemmas that he puts in his story. But for me, having it at the end of the Franklin just gave it that extra little punch. So I do have our final little graphic Let me see if I can put it on the screen in a way that doesn't totally block out our faces. I might not be able to. Oh, just barely.
Yeah. We're still here.
Yeah. So there it is. There is our final little marching in to Canterbury Madness. With all the stories that we read, and the Franklin for us was the winner. We did feel like that was the best of the bunch. Yeah, I think we can. Well, let me go back real quickly to the comments, and then we can just, I guess, wrap it up because we're already at 2:30 here.
So I knew that would happen because, like, it's not like one story we're discussing. It ends up being so many. They're not as connected as I expected. Like, we can't reflect on one and the other as like a whole.
Yeah. So Doug said the Franklin's tale was the salvation of the obnoxious chunker, which is the whole thing. So I'm guessing that means you liked it, Doug. Diana said it was a chunker for sure, but you feel you need to reread it. You read it in 2023 and gave it 4 stars. Okay. And Doug is encouraging Diana to not reread it and to reread Proust instead, which might be fair advice. You feel like Jeffrey makes people skip the classics, many of which are wonderful 5-star reads. Do you mean like in terms of people skip, like reading the Canterbury Tales would make you not want to read other classics? Is that what you mean? The magician was the most generous one among them. He had to pay to do the trick and never gets reimbursed. Who do you think was the most generous, Alex?
So my initial thought was that it was the knight, and then you reminded me that we can include the wife herself in this calculation. I think when I was rereading synopses on like Wikipedia, even scholars don't consider the wife one of the possible answers. It's between the admirer, the knight, and the magician. So in that, I would pick the knight because the admirer is the one who put her in the situation in the first place. So, and tried to trick her. So you only just didn't follow through on this problem you created. You can't be that generous. But if you add the wife into that scenario, obviously I'm going to pick her.
Yeah. And that's interesting that scholars don't consider the wife. What is that saying about our scholars? But yeah, I immediately went to the wife, I think because I felt like she was the only person who was giving up something of herself. Like everybody else was giving up a material good or something that didn't belong to their person. You know, unless you want to get into the fact that she was the property of her husband, in which case you could say the knight was being just as generous. But like she was physically going to have to give up something of her own. And it was something that was going to not just materially impact her. So I felt like her being willing to go through that was the most generous thing. Yeah. Generosity being a real interesting term to use. Doug felt like the Franklin's Tale dealt the most seriously with modern moral issues. Yeah. I think certainly I felt like it was the one that would have been the easiest to engage a classroom in discussion on, for sure. In The Knight's Tale, he sets up a good dilemma but doesn't continue it. Yeah, that's true. I think that's a good point. Yeah. Okay. So that's the whole thing. Feel free to put into the comments below. I think some of you already did what your rating of the collection or whatever you read of it was. Having read what we did, I have my letter grade. Do you have yours?
I do.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Oh. Oh my gosh. Okay. So Alex, you gave it a C plus. What is that in numbers?
That was a 3.5 out of 5. I think that is the C territory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Yeah, and I'm upset about that. I just feel like overall, like this has been the like standard.
I do think we're getting a C as our grade for the semester, for the year. We're not doing so hot. I was looking at that the other day on our report card. I gave it an A, and I actually bumped up my rating a little bit to make sure it had an A. Because I was going to say a 4-star, but I think you need at least a 4.25 on our scale to get an A. And I was like, I'll give it that. I liked it. I don't think it's perfect by any means. I think there are sections to struggle bust through, but I would give it an A for high school for sure. Like, I think there is a lot of merit in still reading and rereading this. And like, I think for people's sanity, for the most part, I would probably do the prologue and then the actual stories they tell, and maybe a little bit of the conversation surrounding it. But I think there is a way to present it that would still be really engaging even today. But I think you'd have to pick the right stories. Like, you'd have to know your audience. I don't think it's every story for everyone on their first introduction. But
yeah, I see the merit of this being included as like a high school assignment, just in terms of like exposure to it. Like, when else is someone going to pick this up? You know? And I think it is worth having just that little bit of exposure to something different. The Middle English language, the structure, the verse storytelling.
It's the foundation of like so much of our literature. Like, I think, like we were saying, there's so much that felt familiar, and I think there's a reason why it was easier at the end of the day than I thought it was going to be. So I did feel like it's content that students could do.
Yeah. I definitely think like that Chaucer's prologue, like that general prologue, absolutely read that. And then I would almost even just be like, here's all the summaries of the tales, and not have to read them in their original or translated, whatever format, just to give you like a taste of the different type of stories. I don't think it's necessarily like you have to read all the stories in the class.
Yeah.
I think it's enough just to be like, this thing exists. Here's a taste of it. Here's what it does and why it's important.
I would probably do more than that. Like, if I taught it, and especially in a class setting, I would probably do it as like group projects where like I'd probably have us do the prologue and maybe one story all together, and then have the students pair in teams and they get to pick a story and have to present it to the class. And then
that would be a really good approach, actually. I like that a lot. Okay, you're right.
And I feel like it would get buy-in from the students to then read one more story, and then that would be what they would write their paper or do their own presentation or whatever on.
And then whoever relays it best wins.
Oh yeah. Yes. Yeah. So that would be me. But I think that like in today's setting, that's probably how I would approach it, because I think that you would need to get your students bought in to read more than one. And I do think I would do it in like probably one of the two translations that you and I use. That was like a modern translation where they could see the other one, but wouldn't have to. Like, I don't want to make it into like a college course like for my students. I don't think that's necessary.
I do think my letter grade would make it seem that I did not like this like at all. I don't know. C just feels like an awful grade to me, but like star wise, a 3.5 to me is still something I enjoyed. And I liked this a lot more than I thought I would. Like I said at the top of this, like I was dreading getting to this on our reading list where I was like, why did I put it on here? And I liked it a lot more. So like Yeah, I wouldn't say Franklin Tale was a salvation the way Doug felt, because I didn't absolutely hate everything. It was definitely my favorite. But I want to continue reading. And so I think that speaks pretty highly of it as a whole. Like, I want to read some more.
Yeah, like for me, if it wasn't for the fact that I was in the middle of Arabian Nights, I would not be putting this back on my shelf right now. I would be putting it on my end table to pick up on Mondays and like read a short story from it here and there. Because it is very conducive to that, I think. So yeah, speaking of reading more, do you have any books that you feel like read alike or that you'd want to read next or that this reminds you of, that kind of thing?
So after reading the prologue is where I felt like, oh, the setup reminds me of Thornton Wilder's Bridge of San Luis Rey, like where you have like an event. So that would be the pilgrimage. In that book, it was a bridge collapse and someone telling you like the different stories, the people who were there, like that felt similar. I hated the Bridge of San Luis Rey. So this is definitely better. So if you liked that, definitely this is similar kind of structure. And then, yeah, it just reminded me, it reads alike in terms of like Greek myths, different fables and fairy tales. Also, just like with all the knights, it reminded me of our Arthurian tales. So I think if I wanted, I mean, I'm going to continue on in this, but if I wanted something different with the same flavor, I would probably look for more along that, pick up like the Sir Gawain stories or whatever.
Fair. I think for me, I mean, I already mentioned Arabian Nights. I think the whole like story within a story, embedded narrative thing immediately reminded me of Arabian Nights. Though I would definitely pick up Arabian Nights faster than I would the Canterbury Tales. But it also reminded me of it in terms of that, like the story keeps going. And I feel like Chaucer was heading towards 1001, pilgrimage tales.
If there were 120 tales in here, do you think you would be as inclined to commit to it?
I would not. I don't know. I don't think so. I think this is the right number.
Yeah.
I'd like to say I'm sad that we didn't get all 120, but I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm sad that we didn't get what the host rated.
Yeah.
Who won the winner. Like there is no winner. He never wrote that part.
I'm upset that there's no definitive, this is how to read them, the order to read them in, but like I don't necessarily want any more.
That's fair. I think in terms of other books, this also reminded me of Tom Jones, just in terms of like a bit of the bodiness that's in there. There was something that I never put my finger on that reminded me of William Shakespeare. And Doug also mentioned Shakespeare. And it may just be Shakespeare's incorporation of some of the stories or general feels of the story. If I reread this or bought another edition, I would want to read Peter Ackroyd's adaptation of it. He adapts it into a prose narrative. And I read just the opening of the prologue in that. And I was like, sold. I want to get that at some point. You can look at the sample online anywhere where you can get a preview. It was beautiful. And I will say, I do like, even in verse, the way the prologue opens. I thought was really pretty. And then in addition,
opening was like the description of spring, like that opening, beautiful. Yeah.
There were a couple of beautiful like moments of writing in there. Like there weren't a ton throughout, but like there were moments here and there where I was like, ooh, nicely done. And then finally, like you, like I would. It did make me want to read Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, Beowulf, the Fairy Queen, partially because it reminded me that I don't have to read them in Middle English.
Yeah.
So that was, I think that was a huge help for sure. So
I will say The Knight's Tale that story is based off, I think I already mentioned, an epic poem by Giovanni Boccaccio.
Yeah.
The Franklin's Tale also, what I've copied off of Wikipedia here, is that it's a combination of two different works by Boccaccio. One is book 4 of Il Filocolo, I don't know, and the 5th tale of the 10th day of the Decameron. So those two combined. So I'm going to be looking up Boccaccio, I guess.
Maybe we need to do the Decameron at some point.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, that was a lot. Doug was saying thank you. He needed this great discussion. Great discussing a Jeff that wasn't that Jeff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that we have a different Jeffrey in mind. And Diana, you're very welcome. Thank you for everybody who joined us. I really enjoyed talking about this. And honestly, I really enjoyed reading this. I was surprised.
Yeah.
So, that's it. What is our next book? It is
the last on our list for this project, for this round of it anyway, because,
there is more to come.
Yeah, there will be more coming. I feel like immediately, like as we started, we were just like, there's more to do.
Yeah. So our next book is Sula by Toni Morrison. And that'll probably hit, I'm guessing, around early summer is when we'll be discussing that one. And then that's it for basically the rest of this year. So that'll be our last one we do. That's the last one on our list. We'll probably have like one more follow-up live where we just discuss or go over the project as a whole, or maybe just a recorded video or something. And then we are working on plans for round 2. And it's going to be wild. That's all I'll say. It's going to be another, why did we do this?
It was a good idea at the time.
Yeah. So we have some ideas and thoughts. And maybe we should start collecting other people's ideas of high school rereads. So anyway, that's it for today. Thank you, everybody who stayed around to the very end and who's been here the whole time and all the things.
Yeah, I tried to outline going like ahead of this to like keep it concise and keep us on track, but there's too much to say.
There's too much. We would have had to like completely skip talking about the plots to really get through. And I think it's worth it because especially with short stories, I feel like if you don't at least have one sentence, this is what the book was, that short story was about, they all get combined. So, all right, that's it for today. Thank you guys for hanging out. I hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to leave any comments below on your thoughts or experiences with this collection of books and or stories rather. And we will see and talk to you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.